Shalom, this is Daniel coming at you from Jerusalem. And today we're going to talk about the strategic landscape in Lebanon, which has undergone a seismic shift over the last few weeks, moving from a high-intensity ground war into a complex, precarious ceasefire phase. I view the current moment as a definitive victory for the IDF strategy, a multi-phased operation that has fundamentally broken Hezbollah's grip on the south and forced a dramatic realignment of Lebanese politics. Here is my perspective on the current situation, the diplomatic maneuvering in Washington and the regional fallout. The road to the current ceasefire was paved with fire. In the final 72 hours before the agreement was set to take effect, the IDF launched what military analysts are calling the most concentrated air campaign in the history of the Levant. On April 8th, just as mediators were finalizing the draft in Washington, the IAF executed a surge attack in a window of roughly 10 minutes. Over 500 precision munitions were dropped on Hezbollah's strategic reserves in the Bekaa Valley and Beirut's Netivyah district. This wasn't just about destruction, it was about finality. Israel's goal was to ensure that Hezbollah entered the ceasefire with its long-range missile capabilities completely depleted, removing their ability to use the truce as a period of rearmament under the cover of diplomacy. It sent a clear message to Tehran: any breach of the ceasefire would result in the total erasure of their Lebanese investment. On March 2nd, a formal cessation of hostilities was declared, but this is not a return to the status quo. Unlike previous quiet-for-quiet arrangements, this deal is built on Israeli terms of enforcement. The agreement mandates a 60-day phased withdrawal. The IDF remain in key strategic high ground positions within Lebanon to oversee the cleansing of the Litani area. Under the terms, Hezbollah is legally and militarily required to withdraw all personnel and heavy weaponry north of the Litani River. For the first time, the Lebanese armed forces, backed by Western equipment, are tasked with dismantling the remaining tunnel infrastructure. Crucially, Israel has retained the right to act unilaterally if the Lebanese armed forces or UNIFIL, the United Nations interim force in Lebanon, fail to prevent Hezbollah from returning to the border. This enforcement mechanism is the backbone of the new security reality. Now, there are also talks in Washington. The diplomatic activity at the State Department over the last few weeks has been nothing short of revolutionary. For the first time, we're seeing direct working-level talks between Israeli and Lebanese officials, moderated by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. These talks are not just about a ceasefire. They are moving towards a framework for lasting peace. The Lebanese delegation, led by counterparts to Prime Minister Nawaf Salem, has signaled a desire to fully implement UN Resolution 1701, which means a Lebanon where the only armed forces is the state-operated army. Israel's participation is being framed as a gesture of goodwill to the Lebanese people, providing them a window to reclaim their state from Iranian influence. The goal is a normalized border that functions like any other international boundary. The regional dynamics have shifted as Turkey and Syria weigh the risks of the new Lebanon. Syria, under the leadership of Ahmed al-Shara, who we of course know is a terrorist, but we'll see what he's able to do, not just what his intentions are. Damascus has effectively shut the land bridge from Iran. Syria has stayed out of this fight, choosing to focus on internal reconstruction rather than sacrificing its fragile stability for Hezbollah. There is even quiet talk of border coordination agreements between Israel and Syria to prevent Iranian militias from using the Golan as a backdoor into Lebanon. President Erdogan of Turkey has maintained his populist rhetoric against Israel, but on the ground, Turkey is positioning itself as a potential guarantor of Lebanese stability. Turkey sees the weakening of Hezbollah as an opportunity to expand its own influence in Tripoli and northern Lebanon, effectively competing with Iran for the soul of the country's Sunni population. France has returned to its historical role as Lebanon's protector, but with a much sharper edge towards the resistance axis, that is, Hezbollah. President Macron has organized an international conference to provide billions in aid to the Lebanese armed forces. France's stance is clear. The Lebanese army must be the sole military power in Lebanon. Following the death of a French peacekeeper in a Hezbollah-linked skirmish, Paris has dropped its dual-track diplomacy. They are now explicitly backing the Israeli-Lebanese talks in Washington, providing the armored vehicles and intelligence support necessary for the Lebanese army to actually enforce the ceasefire in the south. The situation is a strategic disaster for the Islamic Republic. Iran's ring of fire has been decapitated. Iran's attempt to use Hezbollah as a shield for its nuclear program has failed. Israel's ability to strike both Beirut and Tehran simultaneously has proven that the proxy strategy is no longer a viable defense. Tehran has publicly called the ceasefire a betrayal by the Lebanese government. However, with their domestic economy reeling and their primary proxy in ruins, they have been forced to accept the reality that they can no longer dictate terms in Beirut. The ceasefire represents the first major step in the de-Iranization of the Middle East. Inside Lebanon, the mood is a mix of exhaustion and hope. There's 1.2 million displaced Lebanese that are moving between the south and the north. They started to come back south. Now they're moving back north because of a Hezbollah threat. And while the destruction there is significant, there's a growing domestic movement, a Lebanon first, that blames Hezbollah for the catastrophe. The Lebanese people are increasingly vocal about not wanting to be a human shield for Iranian interests. Prime Minister Nawaf Salem and President Joseph Aoun are operating with a newfound backbone. Bolstered by Western support and the IDF's dismantling of the Hezbollah's state within a state, they are passing laws to criminalize non-state militias. This is a high-stakes gamble for the future of the country. The conclusion is clear. Israel has achieved through the Lion's Roar operation what decades of diplomacy could not. The IDF has physically pushed the threat back. The US has facilitated a historic diplomatic channel, and France is arming the Lebanese state to take control of its own destiny. Hezbollah exists now as a wounded political entity rather than a dominant military force. While the ceasefire is fragile, it is built on a foundation of Israeli military victory and a regional desire to finally sever the Iranian connection. The roar has settled into a watchful silence, but the deterrent power of the IDF has never been more evident. Join us next time, and in the meantime, pray for Israel as we approach our 78th day of independence. Pray for the soldiers, pray for the leadership, pray that God blesses Israel, and God will surely bless you as you bless us. Shalom.